Improvement in food resources. In this chapter, we're going to discuss about the food resources and what are the various possibilities to improve the quality and quantity of food resources. Here, food is a very important thing. It's a primary or a basic need of human beings. Food is a basic need. So every day to carry out our activities, we need to eat food. We eat different kind of food. We eat cereals, we eat pulses, and we eat eggs. We drink milk, take honey. So all these are the various forms of food which gives us energy. They also give us materials like proteins, vitamins, minerals, amino acids. So all these help us to maintain our body, to build up muscles, to grow, to carry out our activities. So that is the importance of the food. So food gives us energy and food gives us proper strength to maintain our body, and food protects us from diseases. That means food gives us healthy. So a country, a society, a community, if they are to be healthy, they need to have good food. So all the people must have food. Here we see that the social conditions. So in earlier days, people used to live in forests. They used to carry out some kind of cultivation in the forest. There was plenty of food available for the people. So there was no shortage. People used to take the food of their choice. But now it is changed. You take the country like India, our country. India is a very populous country. That means we have a very large population. So all the people in the country must get food. So see, the production of the food must be very high. Food is not plenty. The food resources should be grown in such a way that it should satisfy the hunger of each and every person of the country. So this is a kind of challenge to the nation. The government and the agricultural departments, they must make plans. They must find out sustainable methods to increase the production of the food resources, whatsoever the different resources we discussed. So all kind of food resources are to be increased. The quality of the food as well as the quantity of the food has to be raised to supply to each and every individual of the community. So now see what kind of efforts were kept to increase the quantity of the food. Here, if we have to grow more food, we need more land. So in countries like India, so when the people thought we need more amount of food grains for the growing population, so then they started using more and more land. So they started using the uncultivated land, bringing the uncultivated land to cultivated land. But this is not always practically possible because water should be available. You cannot cultivate each and every part of the land, every piece of the soil, because you need to have supply of water. So you cannot bring the whole land available in a country to agriculture for food production, because the land must be suitable. The soil must have the qualities to grow particular crop. At the same time, the soil should be supplied with proper water, proper irrigation facility must be available. If it is not there, you cannot bring the land. And there are forests. You cannot cut down all the forests to make into agricultural fields. It will affect the environment. So you cannot cut down the forest. So there are certain limitations. So you cannot get more and more land for agriculture. But population is growing. So the population of our country is raising up. But land, it is fixed. Land is fixed. Of course, the governments are making some plans, some projects, some irrigation projects there, some dams are constructed. In such a way, some amount of new land can be brought to agriculture. But, however, the amount of land available for agriculture is fixed. But the population is growing up. The demand for the food grains is growing up. So how this is met? How do we meet the requirement of growing food grains? So methods. techniques. Methods or techniques. So with these methods and techniques, the quantity of the food grains, the production of the food grain is increased in the fixed amount of the land. Green revolution. They started using artificial fertilizers, sprinkling artificial fertilizers, using chemical pesticides and insecticides. So by that, what happened? The production of the grains increased. The number of bags rice we get from 1 acre is doubled and tripled because of the methods that were followed during Green Revolution. So Green Revolution, really it is a revolution. It brought a revolution in our country and it increased the food grain production to satisfy the hunger of each and every person of the country. In the same way, White Revolution. That is, White Revolution, more production of dairy products, milk and other products. So they have followed certain methods. So by that the cows and buffaloes and all used to give more amount of milk, that is to supply to the people. So these Green Revolution and White Revolution, they helped us to increase the production. Then what is the challenge then? This is fixed here, the challenge is fixed. Then why are we talking about now? Already they have given certain methods, they followed certain methods, Green Revolution, White Revolution. Then still why we are talking? Even this Green Revolution or White Revolution, they have certain issues. What are those issues? In Green Revolution, during Green Revolution, people used lot of chemical fertilizers. People used a lot of chemical pesticides, insecticides and other things. So these things, they are causing environmental pollution as well as they are disturbing the balance in the soil. So if you are using them extensively, generation after generation, crop after crop, you are using more amount of fertilizers, you may not be able to get good amount of production. And the food and soil and water and all resources get polluted. So it doesn't show a permanent solution. It is not a permanent solution for the challenge. What is the challenge? Good food resources. We need to have good quantity as well as good quality of food resources. So by following these methods like artificial fertilizers or synthetic pesticides or insecticides, they cause pollution as well as degrade the quality of the food as well as degrade the quality of the soil, and we may not be able to do this for a very long time. So we need to look for some other alternates. We need to look for some other alternates. What are those alternates? What are the different methods by which we can go for a sustainable agricultural management or food resource improvement practices? Let us see. So here we are discussing about the various methods and techniques and what are the various management practices by which we can increase the production of the food grains. In this context, we need to talk about the people, those who are connected to this food production. Who are they? Farmers. Farmers. So here, if there are any new methods or techniques, whether we should see that whether practically the farmers are able to do that or not. That means economically it is fit or not to the budget of the farmer. Nowadays, so many hybrid seeds are sold. Nowadays, chemical fertilizers, pesticides are sold in the market. So nowadays, there are bore wells available. The companies they are digging 100 feet, 200 feet, so to get the water. So if the farmer can carry out the agriculture by taking all this artificial fertilizer, artificial high quality seeds and bore wells and all, but whatever the amount he is invested, whether he is getting back on the profit or not, and many farmers are not getting, they are investing this much of amount which lent from the private bankers or from the banks, and they are not able to get back the amount from the profits because the crops may fail. So by that they are attempting suicides. So the social condition. So increasing the production of food grain, in the sense it is connected to this also. So whatever the methods that are planned, they should keep in this mind that farmers should go for a sustainable agricultural practices. Means in which their investment should be properly utilized, and at the same time not only growing a single crop, instead of along with the single crop, they can go for any other alternate, mixed cropping, combined farming, that is cropping, that is growing some crops, at the same time some beekeeping, some poultry, some fish farming. Likewise, they can plan for some combined farming by which they have very less chances of getting loss. If one crop fails, if one variety fails, if one part of the crop fails, they will be survived somehow. So in this way, we are going to discuss about the different kinds of methods that are helpful for the improvement in the food resources. Now let us see the improvement in crop yields. Crop yield, that means the produce, the quantity, how to improve it. Before we see that, let us understand what are the various kinds of crops generally grown and what are the conditions, climatic conditions, temperature and seasons that are favorable to grow these crops. First, we are looking at different categories of crops generally grown. The first primary category is cereals. Cereals are the primary energy producers in our food. You see the South Indian food, rice is a primary thing. Along with the rice, we take some pulses, some dal, some vegetable curry, something else. So the main thing is rice. With rice is cooked, steam cooked rice we eat, biryani we eat, we make some items like idli, dosa and all this with rice. So rice is the primary energy provider. Rice is the major cereal which is grown in South Indian states like Andhra Pradesh or Telangana or Tamil Nadu. So rice, and if you go to North India, there you find wheat, corn, maize, these are cereals. Apart from this, sorghum, jowar and other kind of millets. So all these kind of millets are also cereals, and these millets are used in less quantity when compared to this primary two, rice and wheat. In some places, in some states, in certain food items, the other cereals are also used like ragi and jowar, sorghum, and these kind of cereals are used. Primarily in South India, rice, and in North India, wheat, corn, these are used as a primary food source, energy food source. Now let us see the pulses. Pulses, black gram, urad dal, black gram, green gram, and PZNP, chickpea, PZNP, green gram, and masoor dal, arhar masoor dal. So these kind of pulses, they provide us protein. They are a good source of protein. These kind of pulses are also grown. So these are grown in both in North India as well as in South India. And the other one is oil seeds like groundnut, castor, sesame, and these are the some of the oil nuts which provide us oil. So oil seeds are obtained from these plants. This is one category. And vegetables, different kinds of vegetables depending upon the seasons, gourds, all kind of gourds, bottle gourds, snake gourds, and different kind of creepers that give us like brinjals, potatoes, tomatoes, etc. So I am giving a few examples. You can refer for all the other items included in your books. So spices, certain kind of spices, but spices, they cannot be grown like vegetables or oil seeds or pulses in all other kind of soils. Spices are especially grown in certain specific temperature, specific climatic conditions. In hilly places like Ooty, in such places you can see the spices are grown like cloves, cardamom, cinnamon. Likewise, And fodder plants. Fodder plants are especially grown for animals feeding, like oats, berseem, example. So these are the different kind of plants. These are the different kinds of categories of crops. But basically you see in that in South India, you see mostly in fields, what do you find? You find rice is grown, paddy crops, and we see something else, sugarcane, we see something else, cotton. So apart from food plants, you see these categories are commercial plants, commercial crops. Cotton is a commercial crop. And you see tobacco also, some places they grow tobacco. But these are not food plants, that's why we didn't write in these categories. We are talking about the food resource improvement. But certain farmers, they give preference to the commercial crops because if they have good value in the market, they give preference to growing this cotton, sugarcane, tobacco. Of course, they are not food, they are considered as a commercial crops, tobacco, cotton and sugarcane. But anyway, here these categories are especially, they are to food resources. So primarily cereals, then pulses, oil seeds, vegetables, spices. Here different items have got different value. You see the black gram, its cost is different. You see 1 kilogram of black gram in the market, you will get it for 150 rupees. 1 kilogram of rice in the market, you will get it for rupees 30, rupees 40 or rupees 50. You see the difference? But why can't farmers, all the farmers grow this black gram, which is having high value? And you see the spices are very costly. You take cloves or cardamom, 1 kilogram, 1000 rupees. Then why people cannot grow the only the spices? It all depends upon the type of land, which crop you grow, availability of water, the temperature, the sunshine, all the other various factors, they will decide for which crop the soil is suitable. So by that, if the soil is suitable for some 3 or 4 crops among this, the farmer will pick up for which crop he can afford, for which crop the climate is suitable, for which crop every other conditions are suitable, and he will go for that crop. And at the same time, it is advised to change the crop, means a soil will be having 3 to 4 choices. 3 to 4 different kinds of crops can be grown in one particular soil. So the farmers are advised to change the crops instead of going for the same crop again and again and again in the same field. So the farmer can decide which crop he can take for his field depending upon the conditions like temperature, the sunshine, the availability of the water, irrigation facility and other conditions. Let us see what are the seasons and what are the temperature and other conditions necessary. So now let us see the different seasons and different conditions. Here the growth of the plant, we have seen different kind of crops. Which crop the farmer can select? He should select a crop which is suitable to his soil and climate. The photoperiod in the sense the amount of light available during the day is called as photoperiod, and different kind of plants grow at different photoperiods. Some plants grow in a particular photoperiod, means the amount of daylight available. So we know that the daylight is not uniformly available throughout the year. You know the seasonal changes, season to season, the amount of daylight, it varies. You see the winter days are very short, amount of daylight is very less, and you see the summer season, the amount of daytime or daylight, the availability of daylight is very high. So these differences are called as the photoperiods. So accordingly, the crops are divided into 2 major categories. They are the rainy season crops and winter season crops. The rainy season crops are called as Kharif crops. Usually these crops are grown between June to October. So that is the period, and they are called as Kharif crops. Examples are paddy, soya bean, PGNP, maize, cotton, green gram and black gram. So these crops are rainy season crops. So the other one, winter season. If you see the winter season crops, these crops are called as Rabi crops. The name given to winter crops is Rabi crops, and their duration term is November to April. So November to April. In this term, the winter season crops are grown. What are they? Examples are wheat, gram, peas, mustard, linseed. These are the examples of winter season. So see that season, availability of the light, sunlight, and all these are the various factors. Type of soil, availability of water. This will decide which kind of crop can be grown. So if we see that there in our country from 1951 to 2010, the production of food grains is raised 4 times. 1951 to 2010. The production is multiplied 4 times. How? How could we do this? That is, we were following certain methods and techniques. So by all this green revolution or whatsoever, we have brought up this large scale production of the food resources. So the management of the food resources, the improvement of the food resources, or the development of the crop, or to get a good production, there are 3 major things that are to be followed. Then it is possible to get a good production. What is the first one? Choice. We have the 3 here. The first one is choice. The second one is proper nurturing. Third one is protection. What is the choice? We need to choose good seeds. You have not chosen any seeds. Just you have taken the seeds and planted them. So in your field, in your crop, many of the plants may not be able to produce good amount of grains because it was not a selected seed. So the farmers are going for selected seeds, high quality selected seeds. That means the seeds which do not have good quality, good shape, good structure, good strength are eliminated beforehand. Only the good seeds are picked up, then they are planted. So all your plants are healthy and all your plants give good amount of production. So that is the choice of the healthy seeds. And choice of the seeds which are resistant to diseases. Choice of the seeds which can face the environmental changes. Means good seeds, healthy seeds, resistant seeds, pest and other resistant seeds that will give a good production. So first thing is choice. Second thing, okay, we have chosen good seeds, we planted them, they started growing. Now this is the time to nurture them properly. That means timely providing them proper amount of water and providing all the other things, removing the other pests and removing the other unwanted plants, weeds and other kind of things. See that they get proper light and water and everything. That is proper nurture. So second thing is proper nurture. Third thing is protection. The crop has grown up, all the seeds have come up, all the spikes have come up. So now you have to protect getting spoiled by the pest and other kind of creatures. So that is protecting, proper harvesting, properly cutting down, and whatever the produce is collected, properly storing in the warehouses. That is protecting from the rats and other pests. So that is the third stage, protection. So these are the 3 main things which we are going to discuss in detail now. So now let us see here, we discussed 3 important points that are connected to the good production of food. So that is to raise the quantity and quality of the food. What are the 3 things? First thing is better choice. Second thing is nurture. Third one is protection. So let us see them in an elaborated way with titles. The crop variety improvement. Choice in the sense, the crop variety improvement. See, there are some country varieties of vegetables or fruits or cereals and pulses, but there are certain problems existing. The country or the wild varieties, they are prone to pest. They are prone to other climatic conditions like heavy water lodging, heavy rainfall, heavy wind, the stems may break. So likewise there are some problems by which the production is decreased with the wild varieties or traditional varieties. So here the variety is to be improved. the variety of the seed is to be improved. If that is done, then automatically the production is improved. So the first one is crop variety improvement, the other one is crop production improvement, third one is crop protection improvement. Let us talk about the variety improvement in detail. So in the crop variety improvement, how can we improve the variety of a plant? So this is done by hybridization. So this is an important part in the green revolution. Hybrid seeds are introduced. What is a hybrid? Hybrid means it is a cross breed between two plants of same species. Then you call it as interspecific. Two plants of same species. One plant is having some good characters, the other plant is having some other good characters. If both these plants are crossbred, you will get a plant which is having the good qualities of both these. The better qualities or the best qualities of both of these. This is a hybrid. But which hybrid it is? Interspecific hybrid. That means same species. Here both the plants, plant A and plant B, both are of same species. And the second one is intergeneric. Different species but same genus. Two plants are selected. This is A and B. Same species, different genus. Now you will get, if they are crossbred, we will get a plant which is a hybrid. Which hybrid it is? Intergeneric hybrid. So hybrid means the plant which is produced by crossbreeding of two different plants. So the best qualities of both these different plants are entered into the hybrid. So the hybrid is more resistant to adverse conditions. The hybrid is more resistant to pest and other conditions compared to its parent. Such kind of hybrid varieties are produced. So first thing is best seed. So the best seed is produced by hybridization. Nowadays, there are more advanced technologies are available than this hybridization. In hybridization, we can select two different plants with good qualities, good genes. We can crossbreed, but we cannot perfectly design which qualities of these A and B plants should come to the daughter plant. We cannot precisely design it. But now there is a possibility of inserting a particular quality into a plant. That means with the help of gene technology, the scientist identified the genes of a plant for which a particular character is decided. Say, for example, a plant is very tall. They identified the gene which is responsible for the tallness and they are able to extract the gene and put it in the seed. Create the seeds with that gene. Means the tallness quality is selected. In such a way, genes are incorporated into the DNA of the plant. So by that, these new varieties are produced. We call them as GM varieties, genetically modified varieties. So we're talking about the variety improvement. What kind of variety that the farmers are looking for in the plant, in the crops. So we have seen how to bring the variety, that is by hybridization or modifying the genes. We can develop new varieties. But what sort of change we are looking from the traditional ones? One, the first priority is higher yield. The traditional variety of rice per acre, it gives 50 bags. So the farmer, he wants higher yield, hybrid variety, 80 bags, 90 bags, 100 bags, double the production. So in many cases, when the hybrid seeds, the varieties are used, they get double the production. So they wanted that quality in the seed. Which quality? Higher yield is one of the variety which we look for. Second one, improved quality of the seed. Many of the people you see, if you go to any shop, grocery shop, if somebody is purchasing some rice, you see that somebody will put hand in their bag and they will take rice into their hand and they will see like this. That means the texture, the size, the shape of the grains, they tell that good quality or not. The color. So the farmers, they look for the seeds which give a produce which is having the best quality, outlook, and even the content of protein. So wheat, the wheat also, they'll check the quality by the amount of protein present in the wheat, selected wheat. So the improved quality is the second one. So improved quality is the second variety that is expected. Third one, biotic and abiotic resistance. This quality is also expected in the plants. Biotic resistance. So see that whenever some crop has come to that maturity, harvest, so whenever they cut the crop may not be immediately sold in the market. So it should stay in good condition for some time. That is important. You see the difference between the normal tomatoes, desi tomatoes and hybrid tomatoes. Desi tomatoes, they get spoiled so quickly. You need a cold storage to preserve them for some days. But if you see the hybrid tomatoes, they stay without any spoilage for few days. Means, so the quality of biotic and abiotic resistance, abiotic, that is the temperature, either the temperature, coldness or hotness. So some kind of resistance is required in the plants. And even for the plants also, they need to have some resistance for the pest, insect and other kind of infestations. So the other one is maturity duration. Maturity duration, if there is any change in the maturity duration, that will help the farmer financially. Say for example, if a crop needs 4 months time to grow, the farmer has to invest 4 months of time and money. If the crop comes to maturity at 3 months only, 1 month of investment on the electricity, water supply, whatsoever, everything is saved. So by that is all profit. So when the maturation time of a plant or a crop is less, it is beneficial to the farmer. So farmers expect a variety which is having the low maturity duration. That means in a very short time it should come to the maturity. So by that the resources and money and time and everything is saved to the farmer. So next, the wider adaptability. So wider adaptability, they should be adaptable to different environmental conditions. So that is another variety feature that is important. And finally, desirable ergonomic characteristics. Desirable ergonomic characteristics. So see, if you are looking for a fodder crop for your cattle, cows and buffaloes and all, if you plant the seeds, if the fodder grows so tall, that is beneficial. You will get more fodder. If the plant is growing up so tall, that is a beneficial ergonomic feature or characteristic. And if you are growing pulse crops, if the pulses are growing so tall, many of the resources are used for its growth. If dwarf varieties are there, means short, the growth is short, production is high. So by that the farmer is benefited. In such a way, by incorporating these qualities in the seeds, by the methods like hybridization or gene modification or whatsoever, getting such kind of seeds and planting such kind of crops is beneficial for good amount of food resource production. Now we have seen that crop variety improvement. Now crop production improvement. How to improve the production? We have taken good seeds, okay, good varieties we have chosen. All the seeds with good varieties are planted. Now the production, how the crop production improvement can be done, let us see. Now let us see the crop production management. So here, already we discussed one issue, that is with the farmer. So farmers, all the farmers, they cannot practice same kind of production management because there are small farmers, medium farmers, average farmers, big farmers, those who cultivate large amounts of land. Farmers who cultivate large amount of land, they can invest more money, they can invest money on technology, advanced machinery, agri machinery. Say for example, a big farmer can afford to buy a harvester. So harvester, it will harvest and cut all the crop in very less time. It is beneficial. It gives a lot of profit. Whereas a small farmer cannot afford. He has to either hire the harvester or he has to go for manual method or any other means which is expensive compared to the big farmer. So here, Likewise, in the production practices, it depends upon the farmer. They have different practices like no cost production, low cost production and high cost production. So whatsoever here in the production management, there are certain things like how the soil is prepared, what kind of chemicals or manure is added to the soil, and how the water is supplied, irrigated, how the land is irrigated, and what kind of cropping patterns are followed. So these are the different things that will come under the crop production management. So what comes under this? Nutrients. The thing is that different kind of nutrients, chemical fertilizers or manures whatsoever we add, and irrigation, and the other one is cropping patterns. Let us talk about the nutrients first. So let us talk about the nutrient management. So what are nutrients? So we know in case of our food, when you talk about nutrients, we call carbohydrate, protein, fat, vitamin, minerals, and all these are the nutrients so that we require. In the same way, plants also require certain nutrients. So the plants, they require 16 nutrients. Among these 16, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, these are supplied by water and air. Water and air supply this carbon, hydrogen and oxygen to the plants. So 16 minus 3, there are 13 nutrients. Out of these 13 nutrients, 6 nutrients are required in large quantity. They are called as macronutrients, and other 7 are required in small quantity. They are called as micronutrients. So 6 plus 7 together 13. Macronutrients in the sense they are required in large quantity. Micronutrient in the sense they are required in small quantity. Micronutrient doesn't mean that they are not very important. They are very important. Even though they are required in very small quantity, their absence will lead to certain kind of deficiency diseases in the plants. So likewise, humans, if you have any deficiency in your food, you get deficiency diseases. We studied about vitamin A deficiency, vitamin C deficiency. Likewise, even plants, if they have any deficiency of the nutrients in the soil, they get certain kind of diseases which are shown on the leaves, which affect the growth, which affect the production. So the production of the plants or the crops must be good in the sense they should be having proper nutrients. All the nutrients are properly supplied, and the soil, it should be having all the essential nutrients required for the growth of the particular plant. So the nutrient management is very important. Why we should manage? Naturally, the soil has got nutrients. The soil is being used up for agriculture again and again and again and again for number of hundreds of years. You see a farmer, his grandfather, they're all cultivating the same soil. They're growing so many tons of crops in the same soil. So the crops, when they are grown up, they're using the nutrients from the soil. The soil become deficient of nutrients, lack of nutrients. So nutrients are to be replenished. The soil has to be recharged. The nutrients are to be added to the soil. And who will do that? The farmer has to do that. That is what called as nutrient management. Then how can we do that? Where do we get the nutrients to pour back into the soil? The nutrients, they are present in two different forms. Naturally, they are present in the form of manure. The excrete of animals is a very best source of nutrients for the plants. So animal, cow dung and other animal dung, that is brought and mixed up with the soil. So this is the best manure. Again, manure is divided into animal waste, animal manure, and green manure, compost and green manure. So the compost, here you can take vermicompost. Compost, that is the excreta, waste of the animals, is of course not directly taken to the soil. That is, let it dried and certain kind of changes takes place, and that is with the help of earthworms. If the compost is more decomposed, when it is getting decayed in such form, it contains all the nutrients ready to mix up with the soil. That is called as vermicompost. So farmers are given training in preparing the vermicompost. Vermicompost can be prepared from the household waste, vegetable waste, hotel waste, and whatsoever the organic waste is there. That waste is kept in a pit, and in the pit earthworms are kept, and these earthworms, they eat up all the waste material and they produce organic manure. So that compost is called as a vermicompost, which is the best natural nutrient for the soil. So by adding this kind of the vermicompost or manure, naturally obtained compost is good for the plant as well as for the soil. It does not cause any soil or water pollution. So that is the major advantage of the manure or the vermicompost. In some cases where there is no possibility of getting a vermicompost or animal waste, the farmers, they can go for green manure also. So what is green manure? Green manure is a kind of technique. Say for example, they have taken some land for cultivation. Before they start sowing the seeds, they grow some plants like sun hemp. Some green plants they grow in the crop field. So after that, with the help of a tractor, they mulch the green plants in the soil. They crush the green plants in the soil. So these green plants, they get crushed in the soil and they get decayed and turns to manure. So this is another method of adding manure, green manure and compost or vermicompost. So these come under the manure. Manure is a natural one. It consists of nature identical nutrients which are easily absorbed by the soil, and the soil which is added up with manure, it has got good water holding capacity. So by that, the roots can easily absorb water and minerals. So that is the most advantageous and best method. The farmers, those do not have the facility of manure, or those do not rely more on the manure for high production, they go for fertilizers, chemicals like potassium, sulfur, phosphorus. These kind of chemicals are they are in the form of small pellets in the bags. So these chemicals are directly applied to the plants. But plants, they cannot directly take the chemicals readily, and they cannot absorb whatsoever the chemical is sprinkled immediately. So there are certain precautions has to be taken while applying the chemical fertilizers. The farmers should see that the chemical fertilizer is uniformly distributed, and see that after they spread this chemical fertilizer, they should see that the chemical fertilizer is not washed away by the rainwater or irrigated water. So by that the water bodies are polluted. So that care has to be taken by the farmers. And of course, the excessive use of chemical fertilizer is not good, because it pollutes and it decreases the fertility of the soil by excessive use and repeated use, and it may create imbalance in the amount of nutrients, and it will raise up the certain nutrient in high quantity and certain nutrient in less quantity. So fertilizers are not so advisable, but in the view of increasing the production, farmers can use the fertilizers, chemical fertilizers, but with certain precautions. That is post sprinkled precautions. After sprinkling, what precautions are to be taken for complete utilization and not polluting the water bodies and other things. So this is the nutrient management. So in the crop production management, we see that organic farming, nowadays there is much more importance is given to this organic farming, and many of the products which are labeled as organic are sold at a higher rate in the markets. People are more interested to buy a product which is labeled as organic compared to other products. The reason is the product is grown in a crops where no artificial fertilizers or pesticides or insecticides and no other chemicals are used. Only the organic manure and other organic methods are followed to grow the crop. So people are interested to buy such product, because the vegetables, fruits and other things that are grown in the general method, normal way using chemical fertilizers, they have got the remains of pesticides and fertilizers or chemicals in the food which is being consumed by the people, and they are getting affected by various diseases. So people are much more health conscious today. they are worried about their health. So the food grains and other fruits, vegetables which are grown from the farms, so if they are labeled as organic, if they are grown in an organic method, people are more interested to buy. So in organic farming, they don't use any fertilizers. They use organic manure and organic biofertilizers. Biofertilizers are the kind of culture, microbial culture, blue-green algae culture. Biofertilizers are used, and no chemical herbicides or pesticides are used. Only organic methods are used to grow the crops. So such kind of organic farming, they use natural materials like neem leaves, neem juice, and they use turmeric, and they use cow urine, cow dung, cow milk. So these kind of materials are used in growing the crops. So this is called as organic farming. So the second important thing is irrigation. It is the most important thing in India. Most of the agriculture is based on rainfall. So the proper and timely monsoons help the farmers to get good production. So there is a large network of rivers in India, but there is a lot of land to which this river water is not supplied through canals, and all those areas are dependent on the rainwater for the agriculture. So timely monsoons and sufficient amount of rains in proper time is very, very important for the food production or good production, or for the better agricultural produce in our country. So how is this irrigation done? How the water is supplied? The first thing already we discussed, that monsoons. That is the first thing, they should be timely and sufficient and proper. The second thing is, apart from the rainwater, the second one is wells. Most of the agricultural lands are now dependent on well water, because rains are seasonal and they come in rainy season, but the crops are being grown in all the other seasons. So how this is possible? Apart from rainy season, how they get water? That is from the ground. So the water is available in the ground, but it is a resource which should be judiciously or properly used. It should not be mismanaged. But here the case, what happens is, for the extensive irrigation, that is in the idea of growing more and more crops, more production, more number of crops, farmers are dependent on tube wells. So the wells are two types. They are the dug wells and tube wells. Dug wells, they are dug by the people up to the strata where water is available. Tube wells, they are done with a machine. The boring is done with a machine to the deeper strata, deep layer of the earth from which the water is drawn out. So nowadays many people are dependent on the tube wells. They are spending a lot of money. Farmers are spending a lot of money, because if they have a tube well, they can go for irrigation at any season. So that is the reason why they are going for. But in many of the places, even though the farmers, they go for hundreds and thousands of feet, they are not able to get water. That is because the groundwater is not recharged properly. The rainwater is not properly harvested. So we are not making any plans. We are not making any arrangements to see that the rainwater is properly seeped down into the ground. So that is not happened. There is no proper watershed management. So wells, but at present people, mostly those who are far away from the river and canal system, they are dependent on wells for the agriculture. The other one is canals. Canals are the small streams which supply the water from either reservoir or from the river. From a river or a reservoir, there will be some branches through which the water is supplied to the fields. Those are the canal system. So different fields are irrigated by the canals. So when there is flood water, when there is sufficient amount of water in the river, then they lift up the gates for the canals. The water flow in the canals to the villages and fields where the water is required. The other one, river lift system. So from a river, the water can be supplied through canals. See, this is a river, and from the river, the water can be supplied to fields through canal. But you see here, here is some place which is higher than the level of river. Water cannot flow in higher level. Water always flow from high to low, up to down. But the river level is low compared to this particular area. These people need water. So the river water can be sent to the higher levels also with the help of mechanical lifts, pumps, river lifting. It needs power supply, electricity. If electricity is available, the river lifting systems can be arranged in places where the lands are in higher level compared to the river flows. So by that the river water can be lifted to higher areas. That is river lift system. But in all the places it is not possible to arrange a river lift system because it runs on electricity. Again, the place should have enough electricity for the purpose. Even these tube wells also run on electricity. Farmers, those who are doing agriculture, they need to have electricity supply. The governments are promising this many hours of electricity to the farmers, which is free of cost. So likewise, because the farmers are dependent on electricity, because they are dependent on tube wells, because their agriculture is planned on tube wells. But is it a sustainable method? Is it a sustainable way providing electricity to run the tube wells, to draw the groundwater, to carry out the agriculture? It is not sustainable. That means it doesn't give good result in a long term. It is not good for the environment or for the community or for the whatsoever. It is not sustainable. Sustainable management in the sense, it should be having a proper judicious way. That is watershed management, rainwater harvesting. So when there is a lot of, when there is rain, lot of water, it runs off into the rivers and seas. We should be able to make efforts to harvest the rainwater. So whatever the water it flows waste into the sea and rivers, that water can be properly harvested. The water can be properly stopped by check dams, by construction of check dams, construction of dams, construction of bunds, making reservoirs. By all these we can harvest. We can set up percolation tanks, so by that the rainwater can be recharged, seep down into the ground, and later it can be drawn out and used for various purposes. So whatsoever, we should not let the rainwater, whichever falls on the land, we should not let it freely run into the sea. We should make efforts to harvest the water, to hold the water, and we should divert the water to some reservoir or to some river or to some tank, so that the water is stored for some days, which can be used for the agriculture. In earlier days, the agriculture is based on dug wells and tanks. In many of the places, the kings and who were ruling those places, they used to take care of the tanks. Tanks were full of water. The water is supplied either for home and domestic purpose, either for agricultural purpose or for any of the purposes. But nowadays, the tanks are not properly managed. So the next one is tanks. So this is very in the least order, in the down order, because now in very few places the tanks are used for agriculture. But now the certain governments, certain voluntary organizations and certain research organizations encouraging the farmers to recharge their tanks and reservoirs. And they are giving ideas to the people, those who do not have irrigation facilities, asking the people to maintain the tanks which are damaged or destroyed in their villages, so by that the rainwater can be properly harvested, so the harvested water can be properly utilized for the agriculture. So when in case of this irrigation, sustainable methods like watershed management and water harvesting are followed, farmers can get sufficient amount of water for good amount of food production. So now let us see the cropping patterns. These are the techniques. By following these techniques, even the production can be improved. So we have seen that nutrient management, by providing good nutrients, we can improve the production. Irrigation, by having good irrigation facility, we can improve the production. The third thing is cropping patterns. Say in a piece of land, if one particular crop is grown, because of some reason the crop is failed, so the farmer gets loss. So to avoid that, the farmer can go for certain patterns like 1. Mixed cropping, and he can go for intercropping, and they can follow crop rotation. These are the different methods that they can follow. So what is this mixed cropping? Mixed cropping means growing two crops together in same piece of area. For example, you wanted to grow paddy. You will sow only the paddy. Paddy seeds are sown. Then the paddy plants are transplanted. Here in mixed cropping, two different type of seeds are sprinkled. Two different type of plants you get in the same piece of land. Mixed together, not in a specific pattern. So the examples: wheat plus gram, wheat plus mustard, groundnut plus sunflower. These are mixed cropping examples. In this case, if any one plant is died, one crop is failed, there is some insurance. The other crop, it will cover some loss. The other one is intercropping. Intercropping means with some pattern. One row, one particular crop, the other row, other particular crop. Soya bean, maize, finger millet, cowpeas. In this way, in a pattern, alternate patterns, you can go for intercropping. So in this intercropping, there is less damage by the pest, because as it is not the same crop, the pest cannot easily spread from plant to plant, because one row is occupied by one particular plant, the other row is occupied by other particular plant. Pests are specific to particular plants. One pest cannot affect both the plants. So that is the choice. In such a way, there is more production and benefit to the farmer. The third one is crop rotation. Crop rotation means the farmer not growing the same crop again and again and again in the same land. Once he has grown some kind of sugarcane, he has to change the crop to some other plant. He has grown paddy, next time something else, some pulses, again something else. So the soil may be suitable for 2 to 3 kind of crops. He can change the crop. So by that he can grow for more number of crops in a year. At the same time, the nutrients in the soil are balanced. At the same time, the pests and insects are naturally controlled instead of using chemical pesticides and insecticides. So that is the crop rotation. By following these cropping patterns also, we can get a good production. So these are all comes under the crop production management, that is nutrient management, irrigation management and cropping patterns. So the next one is crop protection management. So crop has to be protected. We put all our efforts to select good variety. We kept all our efforts to get good produce. We followed good methods. We provided good nutrients. We provided good amount of water and everything. But now the thing is that protection, the crop is growing well. There are some threats to the crop. There are some issues. There are certain things which can damage the crop, which will reduce the production. What are they? Weeds, insects, microorganisms. So this is during the growth. After harvesting also the crop has to be protected till it is sold. So that is storage. But now when the crop is growing up actively, there is a threat either from weeds or insects or pathogens. Weeds are the unwanted plants which grow along with the crop. Then what is the danger here? The unwanted plant compete with the plant. For example, we are growing wheat. The unwanted plant like xanthium or parthenium grows there. It uses up the nutrients and water and competes with the wheat plant. Ultimately, the production of the grain in the wheat crop is reduced because its nutrients are shared, its resources are shared by this unwanted plant. So these unwanted plants are to be removed from the crops either by manually. People will be plucking unwanted plants with their hands, manual plucking. That is called as weeding, is done in the villages by the farmers or laborers. They will appoint certain laborers to pick up the unwanted plants. Otherwise, they will use some machinery to crush the unwanted plants. Otherwise, they use weedicides. Weedicides are the chemicals which are sprayed. The weedicides, they will kill only the weed. They do not cause any harm to the main crop. Such kind of methods are applied to control the weeds. So in such a way, the weeds are to be controlled, otherwise the production is damaged or decreased. The production will be less. The other one is insects. Insects also, they cause a lot of damage to the crop. They reduce the production. So if a plant has to produce more grains, the plant should have healthy stem, healthy leaves, healthy roots. The leaf of the plant should be wide, or it should be strengthy, neat, clean, so by that it can absorb more sunlight. If the leaf is eaten, sometimes we will see that there in certain plants, the leaves will be having holes like this, or certain part of the leaf is eaten like this. Some places we will see the leaves are eaten like this. So this part of the leaf is eaten, in the sense, in that part there is no photosynthesis. So the food production is decreased there. So if all the, you see certain plants which are infected by the insects, many of its leaves are eaten. If the leaf is eaten, the area of the food factories, photosynthesis decreases. So by that the production is decreased. So if the leaf is healthy, more area for photosynthesis, more food production, more grains are produced. Area is less, less photosynthesis, less production. So the leaves are to be healthy. The insects, they will cut the leaves. They will eat the leaves. Sucking. Insects will suck the sap from the stems. The stem will have phloem. The phloem carries out the prepared food material, sugars, carbohydrates, and all these are passed through the phloem. If the plant is having enough nutrients, it can produce more grains. So these nutrients are sucked by these certain insects. They suck the cell sap. The other one is borers. These are the insects which will bore, make holes. Mostly in the crops like cotton, you see in brinjal also. Sometimes you will find brinjal, there will be a small hole. If you cut and open the brinjal, you will find a tunnel into that, and inside the tunnel you will see some worm is sleeping. So these worms are called as borers. So these borers, they make holes. Borers, they make holes. Where do they make holes? In the fruit or either in the stem. They make bores. So they cause a lot of damage. Because of these borers, the production is decreased. So the insects are to be controlled by insecticides. Of course, there are certain biological methods, proper management methods by which you can prevent the insects. At the same time, if there is more infection by the insects there is more attack by the insects, insecticides can be sprayed. But the other issues like environmental pollution, water pollution and other things are also should be kept in mind while applying the insecticides. The other one is pathogens. Pathogens are the microorganisms. These are also like insects, but insects are big in size which can be seen to us. But these pathogens are very small in size which cannot be seen with naked eyes. They will infect either the leaf or the stem or the fruit or the flower, cause damage to the plant. Especially the bacteria or the virus or the fungus, they affect the plant pods and cause damage. So the plants are to be protected from these pathogens also. Insecticide, as like insecticides, there will be certain chemicals which kill the bacteria, which kill the virus and fungus. The fungicides and other chemicals are sprayed. Again, using such chemicals is not eco-friendly, environment friendly as well as user friendly. People also, if you use such kind of fruit and vegetable, there will be a chance of certain pesticide remains in the food may be consumed by the people. Water sources may be polluted. So proper precautions are to be taken while using that. Anyway, there are sustainable methods. That is, while sowing the seeds, while preparing the bed, the soil, they can apply certain chemicals. They can take certain precautions. They can allow the land exposed to sunlight for some time. By these methods, we can control the bacteria, virus and fungal infections to the plant. So the care has to be taken to control weeds, insects and pathogens to get or to give good protection to the crop. So when the crop is growing. So the crop is harvested, the grains are cut. Now the grains are cut ready. The fruits are cut, harvested. They are to be properly stored. Otherwise, there is a loss to the farmer. So the grains or the whatever the product, whether the grain or the fruit or vegetable, when it is sold in the market, then only the farmer get the profit. Till then, that is the farmer responsibility to protect. So that also comes under the protection management. Let us see how to store the produce. So again, under the crop protection management, storage of grains is also very important. So there is a loss to the farmer while storage. How? So in the storage losses, there are two different types of biotic and abiotic losses. What are the biotic factors which cause loss of grains? Insect, rodents, fungi, mites, bacteria. If the grain bags are stored in a room, the ants may carry the grains one by one. Rodents, the rats, they may cut and open one rice bag. They may spoil the rice. They may eat the rice. At the same time, they may pass urine. They may litter the rice. Once the bag is spoiled by the litter, the rice is losing its quality. It is not ready to sell. Nobody will buy. So the farmer has to throw all the rice aside. It lost its value. So in such a way, rodents, they contribute for the damage or reduction in the quantity of the produce. Fungi, certain kind of items, they easily get spoiled by fungus, mostly by vegetables or some other items, quickly perishable items. Any quickly perishable items are there, they easily get affected by fungus. If any of the produce is having high water content, the fungus will affect. Mites and bacteria. So these are the biotic factors which cause storage loss. And abiotic, moisture and temperature. So if there is any moisture there, if there is some water mixed up with the grains, there are more chances for the bacteria and fungi to grow up. Temperature is the other factor. So these are the different factors which are to be managed or controlled, otherwise there will be storage loss. So the grains are to be stored properly. They can follow certain methods like sun drying. Drying in the sun will remove any additional unwanted moisture or fungus or bacteria can be killed by sun drying, and fumigation is a method. Fumigation, passing some smoke or gas that consists of chemicals, so which will prevent the infection of fungus or bacteria other, that is the fumigation. So sun drying and fumigation, such kind of techniques can be employed to prevent the storage loss, so by that we can have good production, good amount of food production. So our next topic is animal husbandry. This is also a part of the improvement in food resources. So food resources, they include the plant food resources as well as animal foods. Animal foods include dairy products, that is the milk, eggs and fish, as well as poultry, chicken and other meats. So all these are the animal foods. So they come under the animal husbandry. What is this animal husbandry? Animal husbandry is the scientific way of keeping this animal livestock. Scientific management of animal livestock is called as animal husbandry. So in this, everything comes like related to animals, their feeding, breeding, taking care from diseases. So everything that comes under animal husbandry. Feeding the animal, breeding of the animal, see that it gives good variety of young ones, new varieties. At the same time, they give good amount of milk. At the same time, they are protected from diseases. They are disease free. So by that the food production is good, as well as the health of the animal is also good. So that all comes under the animal husbandry. It includes the care of various animals like cattle farming, poultry and fish culture, prawn culture, beekeeping. So all these come under this animal husbandry. First, let us see the cattle farming. So first, see the cattle farming. Basically, the cattle, it includes cows and buffaloes. In India, we use cow and buffalo for milk production. These cattle are used for two major purposes. One is for milk production, the other one is drought work, physical work, labor. The male animals are used to draw the till, that is for ploughing, to draw the carts, bullock carts. So that is for transport purpose, to carry the goods and other agricultural activities. These bullocks are used, the male animals are used. The female animals like cow and buffalo, they are used for milk production. So the milk production, the dairy industry is the major part here under the food production. Here, the Indian varieties or Desi varieties of cows and buffaloes, they are good in resisting the local diseases. They are well adapted to the local climatic conditions, but their milk production is less compared to foreign varieties. So the agricultural scientists, what they are doing is, they are crossbreeding the foreign variety with the local variety. Now there are certain hybrid cows and buffaloes which have good resistance to the climatic conditions, to the diseases, as well as they have good milk production. See here, Jersey and Brown Swiss, these are the foreign varieties which have very good amount of milk production, whereas the Sindhi and Sahiwal are the local varieties, they have good resistance to the diseases. If these foreign varieties and these local breeds, they are crossbred, the crossbreed hybrids, they have good qualities of both, like giving more milk at the same time having resistance to the diseases. So in such a way, the choice, the selection of the varieties, the hybridization helps to get good variety of animal which is having good physical strength as well as which provides good production of milk. So now these animals are to be taken care under this animal husbandry. Primarily cleanliness of the animal, because the cattle, they live in outside, a lot of dust, worms, parasites all infect these animals. So cleaning of the animal is very, very important. The animals are to be kept in sheds and these animals are to be regularly cleaned. The cleaning involves cleaning of animal as well as cleaning of the shed, because the animal body consists of lot of dirt and loose hair and all these things to be brushed up regularly. So brushing of the animal body and cleaning of the animal bodies should be done regularly, and the shed in which the animal is kept, it should be free from dirt and it should be regularly cleaned, and the floor of the shed should be slanting. If this is the shed, the floor should be slanting, not straight. So by that no water is stagnated there, any water or dust is flown and it helps to keep the floor dry. And buffaloes and cows or whatsoever animals are kept in the shed, they are to be protected by the mosquito nets, because mosquito bites will affect the production of milk. So the mosquito bites will affect the sleep of the animals. Animals cannot properly sleep if mosquitoes are biting. If they do not sleep properly, they do not give good amount of milk. So the production of milk starts in cow or buffalo during the lactation period. That means it should deliver a baby. So once it delivers a baby, it will be having a good gestation period, lactation period. So in the lactation period, it gives milk. Different animals have different lactation periods. So the farmers have to select the breed which has got good lactation period. Means for how many days it is giving milk after giving birth to the young one. So as we discussed earlier, we can select such crossbreeds or hybrids which will be having good lactation period. So now cleaning of the animal and cleaning of the shed. So the cleanliness, it keeps the animal healthy and prevents the diseases and helps to give good amount of milk. Now the next part is food. What kind of food is to be given to the animal? So we are giving food to the cow or buffalo for milk. That doesn't mean that we give only food to get only milk. It is an animal. It is a living thing. It should have some energy to maintain itself. So animal food requirement is different based upon the purpose. So the food, first thing is maintenance food. The animal should be given some maintenance food. That means the food that helps the animal to maintain itself, to keep its body alive, to have proper immunity, strength to stand. So it needs some maintenance food. Then milk producing food. See that the food contain good amount of different variety of cereal stuff and other fodder which helps to produce good amount of milk, that is milk producing food. And see that good amount of roughages are added. And concentrates, the concentrates, they contain less fiber and more amount of nutrients. So all these help the animal to stay healthy and to give good amount of milk for a good period of time. So that is such kind of food has to be given. So the animal is good, it is kept clean, it is given with proper food and water, it is giving proper milk, and there are certain chances for infections of bacteria, virus, fungus and other kind of diseases and other parasites. Certain worms also infect the cows and buffaloes. So liver fluke affect the liver, it will damage the liver. Certain worms infect the animals and they will make them weak. Sometimes they may lead to death of the animal. It will affect the production of the milk also. So these animals are to be properly taken care. They should be given proper vaccinations. If there is any disease or illness, if the animal is not in proper posture, then the animal has to be taken to the veterinary doctor for checkups and proper treatment has to be given to restore the milk production again. So this is all about the animal husbandry. If this care is taken, there are chances to get a good amount of milk production from the cattle. Now let us see the poultry farming. Poultry farming is done for eggs and meat, chicken. So these two are the highly consumed non-vegetarian food resources or animal food resources along with milk. So the eggs and meat are produced from the poultry industry. So here the hens are two types, layers and broilers. The layers are meant for laying eggs. Broilers are meant for meat purpose. So these are whatever the different hen which are used for the egg purpose or for the meat purpose or breeds and foreign varieties. The local varieties like Ashale, if you see in the villages, they are of different colors and different body structure that they look different from the chickens you see in the poultry farm or a chicken center. So these desi varieties, they take very long time to grow up. They grow naturally, but they take very long time completely ready for the meat production. But these hybrid varieties, the varieties which are selected, they will have some specific qualities, that is, which are commercially helpful for the farmers to get profits. So what are those qualities? What are the varieties? What kind of qualities are expected in the variety that can be chosen for poultry farming? Number and quality of chicks must be good. If it is a layer, the number of chicks and the quality of the chicks must be good. The dwarf broiler parent is selected. Dwarf broiler parent is selected for chick production. Summer adaptation. The bird which is selected, it should be adapted to summer or hot climatic condition. It should withstand the high temperature. Otherwise, if the variety is not withstanding high temperature, in summer season many of the birds die because of high temperature. So that is one kind of loss. So whatever the variety they select, it should have a quality that it should have some resistance to high temperatures, because in summer season sometimes the temperature goes to 50 degrees Celsius. Low maintenance. The variety, it should depend or it should feed on low cost feeds and it should have good production and reduction in size of egg laying bird. So these are the qualities expected in the variety. So if whatever the birds are selected for the poultry, if they have these qualities, the farmers will get good benefits. So among these two, layers and broilers, the broilers are given proper care, good vitamin rich, protein rich supplements. Supplements are given to these broilers because broilers, they should be growing healthily, they should look healthy, they should have good feathers and they should grow so quickly and they should have proper amount of fat in their bodies because they are sent to the markets for meat production. Otherwise they won't get profit. So they should be growing very fast. That is the reason they are given supplements, vitamin rich supplements. They are given protein rich supplements. Their feed is mixed up with more protein and all, right? So the poultry in the poultry farming, the preparation of feed is also important. certain farmers, they collect the feed from other agricultural waste, which is nutritious and helpful for the growth of this poultry. So here such kind of food is given to the broilers and special care is taken to the broilers because they should be looking good and healthy. Even though in broilers or layers in these poultry farms, if proper sanitation is not done, if proper cleaning is not done, there is a chance of bacteria or viral infections spread among the birds. Proper cleaning, spraying of certain chemicals to prevent infections, and vaccination to the birds, and also checking the birds whether they are deficient of any particular nutrient are also to be done. Sometimes certain birds fall under deficiency of vitamins and all. So the birds are to be fed with vitamin rich feed, because the birds which are grown in the poultry farm, they grow so quickly, so fast compared to the desi variety hens. So that is the reason they are supplied with the supplements, vitamin rich food material. So the broiler food, it contains vitamin rich, vitamin A, high amounts of vitamin A and vitamin K. And we know about the diseases like bird flu. When it spreads, it attacks, it spreads so quickly and leads to death of the birds, infection of the birds, and consuming such infected birds is not good for the health of the people. So whenever such kind of diseases are spread, number of birds will be, the infected birds will be killed. That is a great loss to the farmer. So proper vaccination has to be done to protect the birds from the viral infections like bird flu and such. So this is all about the poultry farming. So now let us see the fish production. Fish is the another food resource which is rich in protein, rich in essential fatty acids, which is very essential for the human body immunity and growth maintenance. So it is cheap compared to the other protein sources available. So even the poor people can afford to buy a fish and get good amount of protein in their diet. So fishes are marine fishes, freshwater fishes. Fishes are found in ponds, lakes, rivers and other freshwater bodies. And sea, ocean, we find that marine fishes. Now we are talking about the different type of fishes, two different category of fishes, true fish and shellfish. Generally fish in the sense you will imagine something with fins like this. This is a fish with fins. This is a true fish. Shellfish is a prawns, oysters, crabs, all these are called as shellfish. So again they are freshwater, marine. But how do we get the fish? Fish we get by two methods. One is capturing the fish, catching the fish. Second one is culturing the fish, growing the fish. Earlier we used to get the fish only by capturing. Later the demand is more people are looking for the fish and the capture is less, so people started culturing the fish. So we get the fish production is done by capturing and culture. First we are talking about marine fisheries, marine fishing, that is sea fish. India is a country which is surrounded by seas on three sides. It has got 7,500 kilometers of coastal line. So by that we have plenty of coastal line by which we can go on boats and catch the fish. So many techniques are being used. The mechanical boats are being used by the fishermen to catch the fish, and they are using satellites and echo sounders to find where the school of fish, the group of fish are found, and they are reaching the particular location and catching the fish. So that is all capturing. Basically the fish like pomfret, mackerel, tuna, sardines and bombay duck, these are the popular marine fishes which are captured and sold and which have a good commercial value. So these kind of fish are captured by the fishermen by boats into the sea. The other thing is culture. As I told you that there is a lot of demand for the fish there, fish are being cultured. Freshwater fish can be cultured in ponds and lakes. Even in the sea itself, certain areas are marked and certain fish are cultured in particular areas, which we call it as mariculture, marine culture. is called as mariculture. In this, fishes like mullets, betki and pearl spots, shellfish, prawns and oysters for perils. Oysters are grown in this under this mariculture. So this is all about the marine fisheries. Now let us see these inland fisheries. So we discussed about the marine fisheries. Now let us look at the inland fisheries. So what are the resources of freshwater fishes? Freshwater resources, they include the canals, ponds, rivers, reservoirs, and where the seawater and freshwater or the river water mixes, you call them as estuaries and lagoons. These are all the places where you get plenty of freshwater fish. But capturing of freshwater fish is not sufficient for the meeting the demand. There is more demand for the fish than the capturing. So people started culturing fish, which is called as aquaculture. People started culturing fish and prawns. That is called as aquaculture. So again, there are so many other techniques that are followed, and fish can be combinedly grown up within a paddy field along with rice. So that is a helpful method which the farmers can follow. The paddy crop, in the paddy crop, when the water is logged in that the farmers can grow the fish. So that is combined fish culture. You see, the composite fish culture is a technique in which different variety of fish are grown. So this is very economical. But here they can go for different variety, up to 6 different variety of fishes grown together. But see that the species selected do not compete with each other. Whatever the 6 different variety of fish are taken for single culture in one particular pond, see that they are not competed with another. If it happens so, then they cannot grow properly and they will destroy, or they may damage, or it leads to the disturbance in that particular pond. So the fish that are selected for composite fish culture, they feed on different parts of the pond. Say for example, katla, they are the surface feeders. Rohus, they are in the mid zone. Mrigals and common carps, they are at the bottom feeders. And grass carps, they feed on the weeds. So by that, they do not interfere with the feeding habit of the other fish. So by that, without any problems, without any competition, they live together and all these fish can be harvested. But here in this composite fish culture, there is one problem. What is that problem? So here we are growing 6 different variety of the fish, and all these fish, they lay eggs, they breed in the monsoon. So when they breed, all the eggs get mixed. So if you wanted to collect the seed of particular rohu, you wanted to collect the seed of rohu, you cannot collect the seed of rohu because the seed is mixed up with the other fishes, because all the fishes, they breed only in the monsoon, rainy season. So that is the problem. To avoid that problem, the agricultural scientists have found certain solution to that problem, that they are collecting the seed or the eggs of the fish by hormonal stimulation. So not naturally, in the sense when it is raining, they breed. But what they do, they take or they collect the fish, they give hormonal injections and they keep the fish under floating water under hormonal stimulation. They collect the seed from the fish. So how much quantity of the seed, pure seed, they collect? Pure seed in the sense which is not mixed with the other species. From the wild they cannot collect. Say for example, there is a natural pond. The people cannot go to the natural pond and they cannot collect the seed of rohus only, because even the wild seed is mixed up with different species. When you are going for composite fish culture, different species of fish are living together, all breed at a time. You cannot get the seed, eggs of the fish separately. So that is the reason hormonal stimulation method is used. A fish is selected, hormonal injections are given and its seed is collected. So that seed is grown in separate pond. That particular species of the fish is grown individually. So this is about the inland fisheries. So the next one, under the animal husbandry, beekeeping is another enterprise, another industry. So this is also a food resource from the animal. Honey is a very nutritious food which has got medicinal value. It has got a very high commercial value because it has got medicinal properties. It is nutritious, and it is also used in cosmetic purpose, that is for the beauty. So these properties keep this honey value very high, and this honey or beekeeping, it can be set up as an enterprise with low investment. Farmers as a side business, they can set up the beekeeping, and the products like honey and wax both have very good commercial value. So the beekeeping shelves can be set up in the fields or farms, so by that the farmers, they can get the honey with the help of the honeybees. The different local varieties of honeybees are Apis cerana indica, generally called as Indian bee, Apis dorsata, Apis florae. So these are the local varieties, but they have less honey collection capacity when compared to the another bee called as Apis mellifera. This is an Italian variety which has got very good amount of honey collection. So this variety is introduced here, that is to collect the good amount of honey. It has got less string capacity but good honey collection capability. So this Apis mellifera collects the honey. The quality of the honey depends upon the gardens that are close to the farms. So the honeybees, to which particular plants they are going, which particular plant nectar they are collecting, it all depends upon. If your farm, if your beehive is close to some fruit crops or fruit gardens, then it depends upon the taste, the flavor of the particular honey depends upon the close by plants and flowers, and the quality of the honey depends upon the pasturage also. So honey is also the another important product of the animal husbandry, that is the important food resource. So we have discussed about the various food resources, plant food resources, animal food resources. So in this lesson we have seen all the different practices by which the production of the food resources can be improvised, because day by day the need or the requirement, the demand for the food resources is growing up. At the same time, the production of the food resources also to be improved without causing any disturbance or harm to the environment. That means we need to have sustainable management practices to improve the food production without causing any harm or disturbance to the environment, and at the same time we should see that the food is produced in low cost, not of very high cost, so by that each and every person, even the people with low income also should be able to afford to buy and get the food, and we can eradicate or control the malnutrition and other problems.